Hello everybody, and welcome to Brewhouse Art Studio and my next Motionbuilder tutorial. If you can't see my camera, that's because I updated my open broadcast, and for some reason my camera has a hard time connecting, and I don't know, maybe while I'm streaming it'll show up. I have no idea. Hey, Pink Werewolf, how are you? Don't ask me why my camera's not... Oh! My camera just popped up. I'm going to have to roll back to the last version of Open Broadcast because, I don't know, I updated and my camera just... It's like it doesn't want to connect. It's really strange. There you go, there's Mr. Kitty and Lupin and Luna. Alright, what do we got today? Today, I'm just going to motion edit. I can't really think of what to talk about. So if anybody ever has any ideas, feel free to make some comments in the suggestion box. So, I went ahead and started the retarget process. I have my motion capture dude, who's the yellow skeleton there, and I'm retargeting onto this game character. Typically, I don't like big armor on my characters. I like more of either a skin tight suit or something. But I figure, what the heck? This is just, it's for fun tutorial / playing around with motion editing. So, retargets are always fun. It's always fun to see it come together, right? So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start setting up some general parameters for this. So, let me hit play here. So, things that I do when I retarget. First thing I do is I turn the IK pull on the feet all the way. And then I'm going to come into realistic shoulder solving. And I'm going to go to a part where his hands are up above his head, like right there. He's got these big shoulder pads on, so I don't know how well we'll see this. I'm going to just start playing with the realistic shoulder solving. Maybe somewhere in here. Then I'm going to match my source. That way he moves exactly where the mocap is moving. I don't know if you can see that. Let me stop that. You'll see him shift just a little bit when I activate it. Just a little bit. I'm going to come down here, hit play. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to do match mass center compensation. I'm going to turn that all the way down. I just found that that works best. Let's see. Ankle height compensation. Let me check his feet. His feet look like they're hovering above the floor a little bit, so we'll fix that. Just going to take this and I'm going to drop his feet down to the floor. I wish I had markers so I can see, so I can get a better idea of matching the actual motion. So feet spacing is next. Just gonna try to get that close to where those joints are. If I had markers, I would line them up with the markers and not necessarily the joints, but that's what I've got to use. I'm going to get those hips. So the secret of the hips is they work in tandem with the feet. So by turning the IK pull on the feet, it's going to cause the feet to stick. And so what you can do now with the hips is you want to get him to your character to straighten up, and you want to go just about to where it stops moving, and then just go a little bit past it. And then I come into hips level mode, offsets. I'm sorry, the hips offsets, and I'm just going to add a little bit to that. Now I'm going to go to a spot where he's bending down. There we go. He's kind of bending. He's kind of crouching down right there. I'm going to grab his knees. I'm just going to turn those. I'm going to play with those. I'm not seeing much movement in his knees. That means his legs are pretty spot on. I'll just put a little bit of a pull in there just so it has some. I think he bends over, right? Yeah, there he goes. So he's bending over. So I'm going to try to match this the best I can. So with the chest, I like to actually turn TNR on 100%. And then I take the lower spine node and I turn that up just a little bit. I start playing with that. But it doesn't look like he's really bending too much, which is nice. Head and hands, the rotation can be turned up to 100%. Now I'll start playing with the arms a little bit. You have to be careful with the arms because if you're not careful, your character, your game character, your cinematic character can start IK locking. I tried to never ramp these up to 100% unless there's some very specific reason that they need to be. Just kind of fast forward, scrub it through the motion, see how it goes. Seems like it's working pretty good. Yeah, they're on there. It's hard to see his hands because of the big armor. Alright, so I think that looks good. So I'm going to just save that. And time, okay, so once you've kind of done your master retarget, and you're ready to start processing your data, you can just do motion file import. I'm going to grab these two animations. So my import options, this is what I default everything to. I select merge, I uncheck everything here. I mean, that looks all pretty good to go. I don't need these takes. These are blank takes that they delivered with the data, so I'm just gonna turn those off. Don't need take 2 or take 3. Just the animation takes. And that was nice and fast. All right, so here we go. And you can see he's flipping out right here as he's walking around. Let's go back and look at that. This because when it got exported out, there's gimbal on the hips, and I'll show you. It's because the hips are hitting that 180-degree rotation, and it doesn't know if it should be negative or a positive number. So I'm going to go over to my filters, but F curves first. Let me show you what those are. So here's the hips. There's the rotation. You can see the gimbal. Right there where he flips. If I turn this to no snap, you'll see him like really flip as he spins like past 180 from negative to positive. So this is negative 179.5 and this is positive 175.88. So this is pretty simple to fix. Just go to your filters, say gimbal killer, make sure nothing's selected because I wanted to do it to the whole thing. Hit preview, you can see it's fixed it. Hit accept. Now he's walking just fine. It's like, what? I'm walking fine now. Whoa, what was that? What did he do? Oh, he tried to scare somebody, psych somebody out. So this is a thug. Walking forward. Kind of walking through town, just trying to be a tough guy. It's like, hey, what? What? That's what I thought. That's what I thought, flinch. He does a little head adjust, that's cool. Backs up. Yeah. Alright, so then he turns around and he kind of goes back the other direction. Alright, so let's look at the other animation now. Okay, so that was the thug, so let's look at the sheriff. Here's the sheriff, and I can immediately see he's got the same gimbal problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and run gimbal killer on this as well. Yeah, check and make sure everything's okay. Just patrolling the streets. So when you're happy with the data and you've kind of reviewed everything and there's no problems, you can go ahead and bake everything down. If there's something special where you need to like maybe key these, the reach, you could like key it on and off and that sort of thing, and really customize the retarget per animation if you wanted to. but I think we're good. So let's plot to skeleton. I'm going to plot all takes. So now everything is baked down to the skeleton level. All right. Now I'm going to plot to control rig. Plot all takes. I'm going to do that one more time so you can see what I'm doing up here. So when you click on here and you go to plot, there's these little ... next to it. If I just click that, it would just plot that one take. But if I come in here, click the little dots, it gives me the dialogue. The other way to get to this is if you go to your navigator and select your character, you can say plot right here. And then it gives you, hey, you want to plot to the control rig? Yes, I do. Say yes, and it gives you the same dialogue. So two ways to get to it, here and up here. I'm going to plot all takes. All right. So everything's nice and baked. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save as. I'm just going to call this, I don't know, motion editing or something. Save that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of things that I don't need. So I don't need that ROM and I don't need take one. Get rid of those. So all I have in my master file now are the two animations that I need. So I think what I'll do in this example is I will take this and I will cut this apart. I'll start with the thug and then see if I have time to do the sheriff. I'm going to cut this apart into different elements, the way that they'd probably be cut apart in a game. So one of the things you have to think about is workflow. What is the most efficient way to work? Now I could duplicate this thug walking multiple times and then go into each take that I've duplicated and rotate them and crop it down to where to the section of animation that I want, and that would be a bit of work because I'm having to rotate them every time. Or I can do this. I'm going to go into my story and I'm going to straighten him up first. So I'm going to insert a character animation track, select my character, insert current take. And by the way, I'm keeping my motion capture in the file. And the reason why I'm keeping my motion capture in the file is if I really screw something up, I always have my motion capture to fall back on. All I have to do is switch it back over to reading a character, so he's now reading the mocap, and then I can just rebake everything down. All right. So as we learned in the past, turn on the little eyedropper. This is where he starts and stops. I think I'll cut this in half. Right there. All right. And you can see it's drawn the file path, or the file path, the motion path from here to there and back. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start zeroing it out. I want to rotate this so that he's walking right down the Z. So you go to Properties, 3D Settings, Rotate, I'm going to 0 that. And then I'm going to, which, you know, kind of gets me on track. Now I'm just going to rotate that around and make sure that that's set to 90. Now I know, actually, I guess it's not, interesting. Why did it not 0 that out? I bet it has to do with this. The fact that they're both these clips are in here. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to insert character animation track and put him in there again. I'm just going to drag this down to its own track and see what happens. Oh, see there, now it's no longer 90, it's 97.7. So let's try do a negative. That was it. So I'm gonna mute that layer right there. So I'm just working with this one. That little star next to the number, that's an incremental frame, so I don't want that. I'm just gonna make sure that that's squared right up. Turn my snapping back on. Trim that. So I'm on an even frame and not an incremental frame. And when I'm happy, I'm going to go to a new take. That way I don't ruin the original, right? I'm going to call this, I'll name this in a second. So I'm just going to plot this down. Plot to skeleton. See how I didn't click the little dot 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 that time? Don't need to, because I'm only doing the single take. Plot to control rig. All right, I'm going to turn that off. And I'll turn this one on. And I'm going to create another new take. And I'll 0 this one out. So here's a trick, right? So if I came in here and I just write, I got all these clips inside Story. You can have a bunch of them. If you come in here and you right click and you say frame start to end, it's going to look for the very first clip you have, and the very beginning of it, and then the very end frame of the very last clip. And in this case, this track right here has more frames. It goes all the way out to 884. So it reset my timeline from 0 to 88 or 884. If you want it to only go to a specific clip, you just select that clip and right click on that clip and say frame start to end, and it will fit that clip. And that clip could be anywhere. I mean, you can even have like a whole bunch of cuts in your animation where you've been doing editing, and just isolate one by just selecting it and doing that. So I'm going to plot this down. Let's see. And by the way, I'm going to be looking over at my chat whenever I can, and I'm going to see what people have to say or questions that they're asking. And so I'm kind of making this a little bit of a looser kind of a format tonight. So feel free to ask questions as I go. All right, so I've got this done, I got that done. I'm going to turn off Story. I'm going to leave my clips in there for now in case I need to go back to them. I go to my navigator. I can see my two takes. Select this one. So this is a nice walk forward. I'm going to call this Thug Walk 1. And Thug Walk 02. All right. So now let's start pulling out elements of this Thug's Walk. What do we want to see? I'm going to start with the first one. Oh, organization. I know my my little tip jar is kind of blocking the way there. Probably see what I'm doing right here as I do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new take. I don't need any animation in it. It's just going to be a blank take. I'm going to rename that. I'm just going to dash it. It's going to be a spacer. So pro tip, organization. Let's make a spacer. So that way when I start duplicating this out, I can just start organizing things a little bit better. Drag that there. All right, so let's see what we got here. It's got a casual walk. He's got a point. Yay, pink werewolf. Thank you very much. All right, so he casual walks, kind of motions to his left, walks, motions to his right, stops, backs up, looks, and then he's kind of looking around as he casual walks. All right, so let's look at walk number 2. So he turns around this time and he starts walking, stops. This is definitely more of a walk. So I think this one I'm actually going to pull my walk cycles out of, or my main walk cycle. And the first one where he's like looking around, I'm going to pull out those elements and I'm going to get things like looking around and waving and making somebody try to, flinch, because it looks like he tries to make somebody flinch. I do like this turnaround where he kind of turns to walk. I'll probably turn that into something as well. Left foot down. I think we'll go with left foot down for the walk. So let's do the walk real fast. I'm going to duplicate that take. I'm going to call one turn. Turn to walk. That's what I'm going to call it. And the other one will just be Thug Walk. There we go. So I'll do the walk first, and I looked at, I think left foot down is the way to go. I'm going to find a spot where he feels most neutral. I know he's looking kind of off to the left. That's fine. That's an easy fix. I'm really looking for body language, like the core of his body and what the core of his body is doing. All right, so there we go. Left foot down. Right there. That is frame 313. Now, how many cycles do you think we should make this? I think we should make this 4 cycles. Or 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 cycles. Hey, hold on. I like your gift, Jay. I also like the lights in the background. Alright, so there we go. So I'm going to go 3 cycles. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll stop on this frame right here. Right there. That's 468. Alright, so let's throw this back into story. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Don't need them. So you can select it and you click delete, or you can just select it and hit delete on your keyboard and it deletes it. Character animation track. See, character. Insert current take. Alright, I'm kind of redoing what I just did, right? So I'm going to zero that out. Click frame start to end. Frame it. Let's see, go to my properties, select that. You can see he's not walking straight down the line because he's kind of like weaving as he's walking. The lights are from me. I like it. I give you a Mr. Kitty. Some Mr. Kitty for you. Alright, so it's the same process. Go into story, zero this out, and then come down here into properties and just set it to go straight down a direction. In this case, it'd be -90. So now he's walking straight. Plot that down. Delete. Alright, so now here comes the fun part. Now we get to pose. And this is where you get to have a little bit of fun. So let's look at what his head is doing. He's looking to his left. Then he looks over to his right. Typically that kind of stuff would be handled with some sort of look system in the game. Whether it's look IK that is causing the character's head to like look one direction or another. When you wouldn't use a look IK system, it'd be like something that's a little more cinematic or vignette-y, where you need a character to specifically do something. So before I start looping this and setting poses, I think I'm going to get that head looking straight. Right there, I like where his head's at right there. So here's a trick. You go to the head, create an auxiliary effector, and turn off your translation and rotation. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly, as it loops the playing, I'm going to turn up rotation. So his head's no longer like left, it's no longer right so much, but you still get a little bit of that movement in there. You just got to find a good number for yourself. What works best for your animation? That'll work for now. So if you like that, that's a pass or an iteration. So I'm going to plot to skeleton, plot to control rig, and I can delete that the auxiliary effector now. All right, so now let's go and look at his pose. Something that you can do to make your character look a little bit more natural is just give a nice natural curve to his fingers. Because this came straight from mocap, the fingers are kind of like out like that. The different. So what we want to do is and they're kind of tilted out like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to like pull them in and I'm just going to angle them so that they're a little more natural. He is wearing big gloves. This character happens to wear big gloves, so I'm just going to bear that in mind. I usually leave the middle finger and just rotate the index, ring, and pinky. Then I'm going to go to an animation layer, and I'm just going to set a full body pose. And if I like a hand, I don't want to, let's say I spent a lot of time sculpting this hand to look nice and natural. I didn't want to spend a lot of time doing the other hand. I just want to copy and paste it. You go to your pose controls and you can create a pose. And then you can go over to the other hand and select some fingers on there. Make sure you're in body part mode. Click on mirror and hit paste. And it pastes your hand exactly the same. Set a key. Turn off mirror and keep posing. I don't know, I feel like I don't have to do too much to the pose on this. I feel like it's pretty good for the most part already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recopy that pose again because I changed it a little bit with adjusting those fingers. I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to go to the very, so you got a key set here. I'm going to go to the very end. I'm going to set another key. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can just you can select the body, you can select like the foot, you can select the hips. Depending on what you select will determine where it sets that pose from. So if I select his left foot and hit paste, it's trying to paste it in relation to that foot. Or the hand or the arm or the elbow. You can see how it kind of changes the overall positioning of it. But what we want was we want it to be him to be rotated exactly how he was at the beginning. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to turn on rotation. I'm also going to turn on X right down here too. And it's because I want to make sure that where he starts, which is 0 to X, he pastes. And paste that. You can see how he kind of stayed in place, but he kind of rotated, unlike before where he wasn't quite rotating. So I set a key there. All right, so for sake of argument, let's say the actor walked too far. Yeah, let's say he walked too far. And the director said, we need that distance to be a little bit shorter to fit with the metrics to how we move them in game. I'm just going to go to the end key, and this I'm gonna slide him. Turn off all my pinning so I don't mess up his feet. Let's slide him back. So let's say that far. And set my key. So when he walks now, you're going to see his feet are like, he's kind of ice skating now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to do a foot trick to get the feet to not slide. So in the background, if I select his feet, you can see this is what his curves are doing. And by the way, it's probably a good idea to select all of his curves and just set all of the initial curves to linear, so they're not easing in and easing out. Linear, linear, linear. There we go. Or I guess I could do auto. Or is it smooth? I can't remember. Maybe it's smooth. Smooth. Ghost. Are you wanting a ghosting of the keys in the graph editor? Foot. Is there a ghosting feature I am unaware of? I'm always excited to learn something new. I know ghosting in story, but I'm not storing this. Alright, so here's my trick for getting the feet to work in this situation where you're taking multiple steps, but you adjusted the distance traveled. I go to body part mode. I'm going to select his first foot, this left foot. I'm going to go everywhere that foot makes contact. I'm going to go to the passing pose, which is, in this case would be left foot passing. I'm going to set a key. I'm going to set a key. I'm going to set a key. Now I'm going to go edit that. So I'm going to come up and right where his heel's starting to make contact, I'm just going to drag that first key I made over. You can see it sliding his foot. I'm going to copy that key, and then where he starts to pick it up, I'm going to paste it. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make sure that's flat. Oh, okay, yeah, you want the file paths. Yeah, or not file, I keep calling them file paths. You want the motion path, yeah. So there you go. So here's some fun little tricks. So like rotation, I really didn't need his foot to rotate, so I'm just gonna zero that out. And on the Y, I didn't need him going below the ground level, so I'm going to zero that out as well. Oh, click that button. There we go. So now his foot is back on track, but it's now on X and on Z. It's been adjusted. I haven't created any aux pivot stuff in this yet. Just kind of doing basics. Actually, for the Y, I want it to be across the board all the way till the very end. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zero that up. Same with rotation, I believe. I'm pretty happy with rotation. It's just really the end frame that I need to adjust rotation. Oh, you got the perfect example? Yeah, that's cool. All right, so I haven't done the second step yet. So he's coming up and he's planting his heel right about there. I'm going to move that key. Copy that, come forward to where he's picking it up. Paste. And I'm going to do that again right here. Move the key. Copy, paste. So now his foot is pretty much planting on the floor. You can still see the other foot sliding. So to kind of review, what I am doing is I'm really only wanting to motion edit the height of the last frame to fix that for the pose, but I'm only really adjusting the rotation at the very end as well. So that's kind of what's going on. Let's go do the other foot. Uh-oh. Motionbuilder is getting tired. You see that? See what happened? I selected his foot. There are no keys here, but you see keys all up here. And that's because Motionbuilder decided to be tired. So to fix that, you just restart Motionbuilder. So I'm going to restart it. I saved, so I'll save again just in case. Hi, could you elevate my work? I just did it for a very long time. I think you like it. And yes, I am from Russia. Ooh, well, congratulations. Here, let me see if this lets me click on it. If it lets me click on this link. Come on. There it goes. All right, yeah, do you mind if I pull this over into the main window? Is this anime? That link that you sent? It's all traditional animation. So is this what you worked on? Oh, stop. Cancel. BRZ, Burz. ERK, Irk. Burz, Irk. Oh, like Berserk. I don't recognize that anime. Oh, it looks cool. Guts is your spirit animal. Well, tell you when our Russian friend is able to tell us what this is all about, we'll let him explain the link that he sent or she sent. It could be a she, he or she, they, this individual. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in what that was all about. All right, so where was that? Oh yeah, so we're working on the other foot, right? So here's the other foot. Okay, so it's the same process, right? It's passing poses where I want to set my key. And I'm going to explain concept here in a second. I showed you what I did. Now let me show you why I do what I do. Set another key in the passing pose and then finish it off. So If I go over here to my F curves, you can see the offsets, right? So as he comes forward and steps down, this is right in the middle of where my two keys need to be. I'm going to delete this, and I'm just going to show you what happens if you do it the other way. So if I come here and I set my key here, and I come forward and I set and I copy and paste it here, you can see how far that foot shifted over, and you can see where it's at here in the graph editor. And it works okay for this. Sometimes that doesn't work so good because your legs are wanting to IK out because maybe they're wanting to stretch too far forward. Or when you step away, maybe it's wanting to pull too far back. And so you start getting leg IK lock. Like in this example, I shorten the walk, so he's not walking as far. But if I did the reverse where where I pull him out so he's going to travel a greater distance, you're more likely to get that IKing on the foot. So what I do is let me delete those again, and I'll go right to my right to the middle of that, and I'll set a key, and I'll go to right where his foot plants, and when I slide the key, you can see it's actually sliding it back a little bit. When I copy it and I paste it here, you're going to see it shift, but you're not going to see it shift nearly as far. It just shifted a little bit. It's right in between what those two offsets would be, whether I set the key here or set the key here. This is kind of, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but it's kind of like right in the middle. And I'm going to flatten those curves. Flatten. I also need to do it to this first frame as well. I'm going to copy that, paste it there. Right about where the foot plants, slide that key, copy it. So I have seen some tools that actually do this for you, which I think is pretty good. It's pretty cool tech. And flatten the keys. There we go. Let's look at him from the front. Let's see how well he loops. Not bad. Loops pretty good, I think. Let's see. Left foot. Let's go fix some of the rotation. So again, I only want rotation to affect the very last set of keys. So zero that part out. Yeah, 0. And on Y, same deal. I want it zeroed out everywhere except the very end. You can see his feet are actually going through the floor a little bit. Typically, I don't recommend turning on floor contacts, but I'll show you how to use it. You go to Navigator, Characters, turn on your character, slide down to, or scroll down to Modifiers, open up floor contacts, feet floor contact, turn that on, and it will not go past the floor. He's got some weird. This is why I don't like to always use it. It's causing some weirdness in his foot. You see that? Yeah, it's right, causing his foot to raise up. Let's see what his floor contacts look like. And that's the reason why. Look how big those floor contacts were. So when I reset his characterization, because he came from an old version of Motionbuilder, one thing I didn't think about looking at was the floor contacts. So let's T-pose him real fast. Let's fix those. So these two markers are, markers for the floor contact, represent the ball of the feet. Those are obviously the toe, and you kind of want to play the lowest common denominator. In this case, it's probably going to be the heel. I'm just going to pull this in like that. All right, I think that'll work. Turn off floor contacts. Floor contacts. There you go. So now when we watch him walk, he shouldn't have that weird lift a foot up thing. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Let's look at him from the front now. Yeah, it seems a lot better. So let's turn off floor contacts and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, there it is with it turned off. There it is with it turned on. You can see the feet are now flush to the floor. So you have to be careful. If it feels like it's causing your feet to slide, it's probably best not to use it. It's also best not to use it when you're doing a retarget. Usually, you want to save floor contacts for when you're motion editing. All right, so let me look at the front of him again. We're going to look one more time and make sure he loops. And he is, so we're good. Plot skeleton, plot control rig. All right, so we have our walk. I think what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to, I think I'm going to create some of these little one-off motions. Which is this first walking cycle, right? So let's recap. He walks, he does a little hand thing. He looks and points. And he stops, backs up, and keeps walking. Wait, am I doing the thug or I do the sheriff? I think I'm doing the sheriff. All right, change of plans. I'm doing the sheriff. I must have been on the sheriff when I started this. That's okay. We all make mistakes. All right, so we got 1 action, 2 action. I'm deciding if I like this or not. It could be 3 and or 4 action. All right, so I'll duplicate this a few times. All right. there's the first action, his little hand wave to the side. So we know our passing pose is left foot down, or yeah, left foot down, right? Yeah, left foot down. So right here is where I'm going to crop that. 62. And 165. All right, cool. Let's go to the next one. I could stop and I could motion edit that first gesture and do it, and then I could do the next and do the same process of finding it. I find it's better to kind of make your selects first. So that was my first select. Let's go to the next one. It's right here. Left foot down. Frame 165. Stops. And there's left foot down. 465. There we go. And then the last one, which I had some question marks on, which is this one. And usually when I have a question mark on something, I'll save it for later. I'll put that on the back burner. All right, so let's start with this first one. Same process. Story. Insert a current take. Set it to your character. Frame start to end. Select it. There we go. Properties. Plot all that down. Now he's walking straight. When you're doing a lot of stuff, sometimes it's also helpful to do things in groups. Like if this is what you're doing, and you have like a whole bunch of animations where you need to like shift it to frame 0, straighten it up, and bake it down, it's usually good to do all that in kind of one pass. So I'll go do that to the next one then. Insert current take. 0, zeroed out. Get a 90. Plot down. Again, if you have scripting or something, you probably write a tool that does this for you automatically. And then delete. All right. So one of the things I want to do is I want to go back to my walk. Which was this, and I want to copy. Did I copy that post? I can't remember. I don't think I did. No, I did. I did copy this post, didn't I? But just in case, I'm going to update my pose. So I select it, make sure he's selected, body part. I'm going to click this little update button here. That's going to update the thumbnail. You can see it updated it. And then I'm going to click this button right here, which is update the pose. So it's just that. It's just update it. There we go. So now let's go to Doug Walk 1. Oh wait. Doug Walk 1. Here we go. So I'm going to paste my pose on there. Set a key. Go to the end. I'm going to set another key. I'm going to check his feet, see if I need to motion edit his feet into place, or we call it the foot trick. Actually, probably what I could do is I could probably come right about here and do a 0 key. Full body 0 key. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. 0 key. When in doubt, 0 it out. So full body 0. Come where he comes out of it, and right about here I'm going to 0. And that is where I'm going to be doing most of my motion editing, blending. So let's go to body part. I like to concentrate on the feet first. Sets his foot down. Body part mode, I'm just going to slide that key, that 0 key forward, or backwards, I guess. Right there. I'm going to go all the way to the end because that's 0'd at that point. And right there, I'm going to drag it there so now it sticks. Same thing for the other foot. And same thing when he comes out of it. Actually kind of comes out of it back here. Move that way, step forward. There we go. Same thing for his head. All I'm doing is shifting around the 0 key. He needs to be looking at that person over there. He's waving too, so I'm going to pull that 0 key out over to get his head to look over there a little bit quicker. One of the things you can do when you're setting these offset keys, because I did these full body keys, if I select that, you can see kind of where my full body keys are. I like to offset the offset keys. So not everything is doing that blend all at the same time. Kind of helps things feel a little more natural in my opinion. So I'm going to do the same thing with his arm. His left arm in this case. And I think his fingers. So let me go grab his fingers. There we go. He says hi. His other hand doesn't do anything, right? So I've already got a decent pose for his right hand. So I don't need to zero it out right here. So I'm just going to grab those keys for the fingers, and I'm just going to delete those. You can see what's going to happen here in the curve editor. I can do it here, or I can just do it up here. I'm in body part mode, so it's only affecting the fingers. There's adjusted his fingers to be a little bit nicer. I might consider taking off the 0 key off that arm as well. See how it looks like. Yeah, it's not too bad. I don't mind it. All right. Now, you could either bake this down and then just look at his left hand that's kind of going out and kind of waving at the people, and do the fingers in a separate pass, or you could do it in this pass. So let's see what happens. And you know, let me switch things over here so I'm not covering up things with chat and stuff. So left hand, or right, yeah, left hand. So he's going to come over and he's going to say his little officer gesture. I'm going to shift that offset key there, and we come down to where he's starting to raise it up. I'm going to shift the 0 or the offset key there. So offset to 0. 0 is going to, I'm going to pose it. I'm going to switch his gloves out. That's a little bit better. Except for that misweighted geometry right there. Hold on. There we go. That's better. See his hand's a little bit better. Again, it just comes down to like a sculpting job. Just how are you going to sculpt the hands? So we probably want to make it readable from a distance, especially if you're like a player and you're like looking at this NPC who's doing this motion. When posing your hands, fingers tend to group together. I've talked about this in the past. So these 3 fingers will group together. And out of these 3 fingers, these 2 fingers group together. And that's where you get Spider-Man. See a lot. Spider-Man's drawn a lot of times like this. You know, he's web swinging or whatever. We'll do that a lot. That's because these 3 fingers group, and then out of those 3 fingers, these 2 fingers tend to group, and it has to do with the way the tendons in the arm are, how they're built. And how the ring finger is dependent on the tendons from the middle and the pinky. So there you go. Set that key there. I'm going to copy that key. Where he's about to drop it, I'm going to paste it in there so it kind of sticks. So he like holds it up and keeps his hand in that kind of a gesture. And then I want to get rid of that 0 key, so he's going to just drop it right back down into the offset of the main pose. So I think that's pretty good. Plot that down. Now, something I haven't talked about yet, I didn't do this with the walk, but we'll look at it here, is adding a smooth filter to this. Let's look at one of his joints. Go to the base animation layer. You can see how there's a little bit of noise in that joint. And it has to do with the way the motion capture, just by its very nature, is a little bit noisy. So what I do is, when I'm done, I will select everything. I'm just going to add a smooth to it. Before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and plot it down. Back and forth. Alright, now I'll select everything. So I'm selecting all the IK and all the FK, making sure translation and rotation are both set. Go over to my filters. You can kind of see the jaggediness here. Just mocap noise. Go to my smooth filter. I'm going to turn down my width from 4 to 2. And I turn off use quaternions because I always turn that off. And I'm going to hit preview. You can see immediately it helps smooth out a lot of the little janky noise. I'm going to reset that so you can kind of look at that again. I'll zoom in on this a little bit so you can kind of see the noise in there. So I'm going to preview it again. You can see it's really smoothed it out. I'm going to accept. Now you can over smooth something. And if you over smooth something, feet are going to get mushy and they're going to be sliding around the floor. Contact points, let's say you're grabbing a hold of something, like, or putting the hands on the desk, on a desk or something, where you want like solid contact. That's all going to get mushy and sloppy. A lot of times you'll have like quick, sharp movements, like the Thug earlier, which I thought I was editing the Thug. He has this cool like little flinch that he does, like he's going to psych that person out and scare him because, you know, he's a big bully. A lot of those little sharp movements can also disappear when you add a smooth. So you have to be very careful about how you smooth. I use very small numbers. I use like 2. 4. I'll sometimes use 4. It depends. You know, use your best judgment. But rule of thumb is just minimally smooth something. Only if there's a big something that you gotta smooth out will I do a larger number. So that number is of 2. It means 2 frames because I'm at 30 frames a second. 2 means 2 frames. So every key, it's looking 2 keys in front and 2 keys behind it, and it's using an algorithm to kind of figure out what that smoothing is. If you did 4, it's looking 4. Each key is looking 4 in front and 4 behind to see how it needs to adjust itself accordingly. So everything's just kind of like adjusting itself. And you can actually, by using a higher number, you can actually destroy your curves. So anyway, that's smoothing. If I play this now, I've done one level of smoothing. It looks good. It's a little bit smoother. I can see it from where I'm looking at. I don't know how well you all can see it. Cool. So let's plot that down, since I like that smooth. Now see, because I made sure everything was plotted down and back, let's say I smoothed it out and I didn't like it, or I over smoothed it to the point where I couldn't hit undo. As long as I didn't plot down to the skeleton, what I can do is I could actually turn off the control rig and rebake the skeletal data back to the control rig, which essentially undoes all the mistakes. So just something I do. I guess I'm going to call that a pro tip. Maybe. I think I'm going to call that a pro tip. All right, so it says, hey there, buddy. How are you doing? Let's go look at the next one. You know what? I'm going to actually name this something. I'm going to call this... Actually, I shouldn't call it Thug Walk. I should call this Lawman. Lawman Walk. And it's going to be a gesture, so it's going to be wave left. Oh, only hit cap lock. There we go. Lawman, wave left. I'm having troubles. All right, so if you double click on takes, it will show you all the takes. I can select one at a time, right? Go up to takes. I can double click on that and I'll see everything. And it makes it a little easier to like select something and copy and paste. You can do it down here, but it's a little more difficult. All right. Also, when you have it over here, it'll automatically switch. You can see them switching up there to whatever take that is. Otherwise, if you're down here, you have to double click on it to get it to switch to that take. So let's say you're reviewing a bunch of animations. Double click on takes and you can see your whole list of animations, and you can just quickly run down the list. This is really good when let's say you got to make sure your home pose lines up for every animation. So you got to make sure at frame 0 you're all in the same pose. You can just quickly go click, 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 and keep an eye as you go through. Keep an eye on your guy. If you see a little shift, you go, oh, I got to go fix that take. Get the pose pasted on there. Let's see. All right. Let's do this one. So this one, oh yeah, this is a fun one, if I remember correctly. Wait, did I mess up on the framing of this? What is going on here? Oops. I think I messed up. That's okay. I can fix it. I'll just start right here. I must have punched in the wrong number. There we go. That's why I save my takes. Oh, plot to skeleton, plot to control reg, story, insert current take, or insert character animation. Character, insert current take, 0. Oh, I bet that's what I did. Frame start to end. I bet I forgot the frame start to end. All right, so then I will plot. Oh, no, don't plot. Let's make sure he's lined up first. So the reason why I'm going into properties to like rotate him to go directly down the path is, in the past you could actually type those values in here, but I don't know what they did in the latest versions of Motionbuilder, like 2018, 2019. They did something and they screwed it up, because you used to have a lot of control over the spline. I could select it here, I could select it here, I could rotate, I would see the values populate down here in those fields, but they did something. So what happened is now you have to go into properties in order to select the front, where is it? Time warp? No, it's animation. Do I have it selected? Okay, here it is. I always have to find this. They because they kind of buried it in here. So frustrating. I wish it was how it used to be. We all believe, everybody I work with believes Autodesk there's some conspiracy for them where they change Motionbuilder to the point where it's no longer usable, so that they can cancel the product. Unfortunately, everybody uses it. Oh, I can't find it now. This is so strange. But anyways, this is how you rotate it now. It's right there. Am I just not seeing it? Now I'm obsessed with finding where the option is. Oh well, maybe next time. But yeah, you should be able to select the front or the end of the node and rotate it accordingly, and it makes it really nice to be able to like line things up. All right, so plot down, plot to skeleton, plot to control rig, and do that. All right, I'm going to just do the same thing I did before, right? So I'm going to start here, full body, create an animation layer, pose control, paste, set a key. I'll let it go all the way to the end. Full body, turn off translation, but make sure X stays on, make sure rotation stays on, paste. Now let's go find the 0 keys. That's a good 0 key right there. Maybe right there, 0 key. All right, now let's go fix those feet. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to shout out, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. So in body part mode, same thing. Just start adjusting the keys. And go to the very end. So what's happening is this little area here is the transition or the blend between the original data and the pose that I'm having to adjust to. You can see it right here. This is the 0 pose, or the 0 key, and I'm adjusting it to what I need the offset to be. And I want that transition to happen while the foot is up in the air moving. So just as long as you get those keys right about where the foot takes off and right about where the foot plants, you're good. If you do it, if you bring a key in too late or start it too early, you'll see some foot sliding. And that's kind of what we're trying to avoid. Let's go check out that other foot. So if you're a first-time Motionbuilder user, you'll be like clicking in here and be like, oh, why is my little scrubber thing in my timeline not jumping to where I'm clicking? It's because Motionbuilder allows you to like select and manipulate keys in here really easily. It's not like Maya, which is kind of difficult. So what they have is they have a feature where you it's middle click. Middle click? I don't know, I'm using a stylus, so I've got it programmed. So it's, yeah, it's middle click. So middle click on the mouse, and it'll pop you to whatever key on the timeline you click on. Middle click on. All right, so the feet are fixed. Bring that arm up. There we go. Let's work on those fingers. I think this gives you an idea of how quickly you can get high fidelity animations done for a game when you do motion capture and when you shoot it correctly and everything. So here's a trick, right? So this is going to save you a lot of time. He's reaching up and he's kind of going, yay, you know, whatever with his hand. Sometimes you can ask yourself, how important is that hand pose? Is it very unique? Is there intent on what kind of gesture he's doing? Like if he's going, you know, you definitely want like a point, right? Because that's what he's doing. But if he's just kind of like checking things out, maybe you can use a pose you've already created. So I'm going to go over to the last one where he waves left, which is that hand pose that I sculpted. So let's say you spend a lot of time sculpting a pose and you want to be able to reuse it easily. Just create a pose. I'll sometimes try to get the camera in a good angle and update my thumbnail pose so I know that that's what that pose is for. It's for that, in this case, hand pose. I'm going to come over here. Now I want to paste that onto that hand. So I'm going to select my body part. I'm going to select my mirror options. And then I'm going to paste. that onto the hand. And set my key. And turn off my mirror. I kind of liked how his fingers were though. I think I'm going to, a little bit in the mocap, so I'm going to drop these two fingers down just a little bit. But, you know, just having that pose I can go to real fast expedited how long it's going to take me to create this pose. My kid's like, just started texting me like crazy. It's like 10 o'clock, you should be in bed. Tell him I love you. Now go to bed. You silly head. There we go. He's gonna text me until his mom makes him quit. Texting me. Well, he said okay. I'll talk to him in the morning. All right. I know that will last forever if I keep talking to him. So he's off with his mom for the summer. And he's with me primarily throughout the year. So the summer's kind of a little bit of a break for me from being a parent. A little bit of a break. All right, so I like that. Now this is really cool. So if you want to go back and forth between what you've been editing and what the original mocap data was, you can just turn off your animation layer by clicking on that and be like, okay, that's what it looked like. All right, and that's my updated pose. Copy that. Oh, what'd I do? Copy that, paste that there. Actually, I'm going to copy that pose. I'm going to hold it. A little bit longer. Oh, look when his arm drops. His arm clips through the side. So I'm going to have to fix that. Bump, bump. So I'll do that in this edit. So as he starts to drop it, I'll probably set a key right there. Probably a key right here. Then where it hits his side, I'm just going to rotate that out just a little bit. Don't like that. There he goes. Now it's not clipping. That's how you fix something clipping into something else. So you can also exaggerate as well, right? So let's go look at that little bounce. I believe when it comes to good motion editing, you're not just trying to stay true to the data, but you're also trying to occasionally emphasize and exaggerate whatever that motion is. And in this case, I'm gonna see what happens if I exaggerate the kind of like the wrist motion as it hits the side. So it comes and it hits and bounces off. So if I rotate that wrist back a little bit, kind of like it's dragging behind as it falls, and then it hits. Set another key over here, and then if I make it come up like this, so it's kind of like hitting and almost like it's floppy, but you have to be careful. You don't want it too floppy. You got to make sure it's flopping in the right direction. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. And if it feels too slow, you can always just adjust your keys because they're just offset keys. No, didn't like that. Go back to where it was. Yeah, that's enough. Just enough to feel not so stiff. Alright, so what's his other hand doing? Looks back and keeps walking. I don't think that hand does anything. So I'm going to do to those fingers what I did on the last one. I'm just going to select them and I'm going to delete 0 keys because I don't need them. And so he's just going to have that offset key of that pose that was created from the initial walk. That'll work. Let's check his head. He kind of like looks over right away, so I'm just going to drag his head over there. Show that again. Let me get closer. That's right there. I'm just going to drag the 0 key so that he gets to the raw mocap data a bit quicker. All right, well, you know what? I think that's good. I don't see any real major problems, so I'm just going to go ahead and plot that down. Plot the skeleton and plot to control rig. And same process, right? It's done, so I'm going to select his control rig, go to base animation layer, and I'm going to add a smooth. Make sure I always reselect my translation and rotation just to make sure that I have everything selected. And I'll show you why. Let's say I don't have the rotation selected for the fingers. And I come here and I select everything. Rotation is still not selected for those fingers. See if I can come in here and you can see it. I don't know, there's a lot of curves in there. So anyways, I make it a habit of making sure when I want to select everything to do it smooth, I make it a habit to make sure I reselect translation and rotation just to be on the safe side. Filters. Slide this up so I can see what's going on here. Smooth. Small numbers. Let me zoom in on this again. Kind of illustrate the fidelity and the noise that comes with motion capture. So there's the noise. Preview. Much smoother, except Yeah, it works. All right, so let's plot down to skeleton, plot down to control rig. All right, so in a video game, this animation here can be done a few different ways. You have your base walk, which is this, just a generic, this is this character and this is this character's walk forward. And generally in a game you'll have all the different directions, like all the cardinal directions, forward, backward, left, right. You might even have diagonals. Sometimes you'll have like circle walks, so that way you can blend from a straight walk into a curve to walk around a corner, and so on and so forth. Anyway, this can get very complicated. And this in particular gesture can be done a few ways. One, it could be a canned animation, kind of like what it is now. It could be an additive layer that plays on top of a base layer, which kind of causes the character to do the waving or the gesturing in some way. And that's kind of like the easy way to kind of in the engine on the fly to be able to play that animation wherever. And the other one is like an upper body animation, where only the upper body plays on top of the lower body. And I can actually replicate that here a little bit. So I'm going to show that by doing this. Let's go to full screen. Let's go to story. This is very similar to how animations kind of get layered in games. Insert current take. All right. So I think the one where he just kind of like waves, I think that's more of an additive or an upper body. Whereas the one where he like stops and he backs up would be more of a canned animation. You wouldn't overlay that on top of something. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to insert another character animation track. Put him in there again. So the bottom track is actually stomping the top of the track, the top track, right? So I'm gonna expand this out a few lengths so you get an idea. I'll do it three times. All right. And by the way, if you need to make something extend, this is kind of how you would do it, right? So I'm going to select his hips because I want his hips to match. I'm going to select this. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to turn off this. So we're just looking at the walk for now. I'm going to select this. I'm going to select match hips to previous, match clip to previous at the start of selected clip. Yeah. So there we go. You can see it's now extended his take out to be a little bit further, and because it's looped, it'll just play seamlessly. I'll do the same thing to this one. Match previous. Start a select clip. All right, there you go. Frame every, I'm not going to do it in this one. I'm going to go my little blank take that I created. That'll be my working take. And I'm going to insert, I'm going to frame start to end. All right, so now I've got that, but now I've got this, right, where he like kind of does his little thing, like, oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Let me go get the right one. Wave left. I'm sorry. You can tell I'm fading. Insert current take. There it is. I got an idea. All right, so let's go back to my working take. I want to get that to play on top of the walk. So in Motionbuilder, there's a few ways you can do this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an upper body override. So I'm going to turn off full body. And now that's allowing the underlying animation to play through. The underlying animation to be what's ever in this track. I'm then going to turn on his upper body. And you can see it's turned on his arms, his spine, his hands, and everything. But you can see it's very stiff right there, right? And it's stiff right there because there's no animation playing because there's nothing in that on that take. So we can do a couple things. We can blend the weighting. That's one way to do it. So I'm gonna blend the weighting to 0. I'm gonna hit K to key it. Come in a little bit. Blend it on. Key that. And I'm going to blend it off again. Key. Blend it off, key. So now you can walk, and he kind of looks over and waves. Still got some weirdness in his spine, though. I don't think I like that weirdness in his spine. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to turn off the spine. But I want to leave the head and the arms. Oh yeah, that's much better. So let's look at that again. Now here's the cool thing. So this is a floating clip. Even though I've got this keyed on and off, I'll have to adjust my keys. I could slide this pretty much anywhere, and it should work. I'm going to delete that. So we're only looking at this part. He can do this anywhere now. And that's kind of how it works in games. Of course, now his arm, when it leaves, his arms are stiff. There is a setting that you can do here, and it is, hold on. Oh, cancel. Always have to find this. Wait, track character, in the center. Nope, that's not it. No, that's not it. Oh, pass-through. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for pass-through. So it's going to allow this to turn on and off when you get to that clip. So it's anywhere there's not an animation. I'm pointing at my screen like you can see me. Anywhere that there's not a take, a clip inside that track, it's going to pass through to whatever's underneath. So it's passing through to that. So I'll just play this. You'll see a little pop there. That's fine. It's not a big deal. But technically I can then take this and I can move this however I want. If I turn on my little ghosting feature, you can kind of see what's happening. you can see his arms are over here. This is in this take right there. Let's turn off that ghosting. I'll play this again so you can see kind of what's happening. You can see that this animation is controlling that. I'm going to take it up one more notch, sort of, so to speak. Let's go through on that other clip that we created. I'll put it right over here. No, I'm gonna put it right. Oh, delete this. All right, I'm gonna put it in up here, right there. So this is the other one that we worked on tonight. Right, take. Same thing. Hips. Select that. Match. Yep. Turn on ghosting. We should see what's going on there. You can see the ghosting shade, hue, color, whatever, matches whatever the clip is. So this one's blue, so you can see the blue one. This one's whatever color this is, kind of a yellowy, browny, goldy, whitey color. Kind of helps you keep track. You can actually change these colors as well if, say, you get two that are too close to the same color. And I believe you do that in properties. I want to say you do that in properties. Yeah, clip color right there in properties. So now you got a walk, you got a wave, and then we got a little event that I guess it'd help if I frame start to end. There we go. So we got a walk, we got a wave, got a little gesture over there. Now there's a pop in here. Let's get rid of that pop. Let's say this is where we like the wave. That's too much right there. There we go. There we go. Let's play the start to finish. Is there a possibility to see how I organize my files and keep track of everything? Yeah. I kind of, if you go back and rewatch this, I kind of talk about it a little bit, but I can definitely recap it. I'm going to go ahead and plot this down real fast to my little working take so that we can come back to this. Plot to skeleton. Plot to control rig. All right, so I'll kind of recap things that I've done. I'm going to turn off story so we don't get confused. If you're ever like, wait, what's happening? Why is my stuff not doing what it's supposed to be doing? Go check story. Make sure it's not turned on and that there's nothing in there that's causing problems in other takes. So navigator takes. Here we go. So I started off with this raw mocap. It's these guys walking. Or this guy walking. I happen to do the sheriff in this case. He's kind of lawman. He does these little gestures and he stops. He turns around. He stops and he turns around and walks back. So I took that and I split it up into a couple of takes, and rotated things around, and I renamed them. And so naming is very crucial in organization. So I called this, walk. This is my walking animation. This one I haven't named yet, so let's name it. I'm going to call this Stop and Look. Stop and Look. There we go. So one is naming conventions and how you name your animations, keeping track of all that. Second of all, I like to create these blank takes as kind of like a separator to like organize things. So one thing that I'll do is, and the way you create that is you just go here and say new. No, I don't want to copy any of my data over. And a lot of times this is what I'll do. I'll go like this. I'll go see. Call this mocap. All right, so that's my raw mocap divider. And I'll just pull that out at the very top. That's my raw mocap. And then I'll organize it like that. Like if I have like walks and jogs and runs, crouching, I'll kind of start organizing things that way. So in this case, I'm going to call this, let's see, new take. I'm going to call this walking. Or you can call it locomotion or whatever you want to call it. Drag that up there, and that's where my walk is going to live. Then I'm going to call this next one gestures. It's easier to actually move things around in the takes than it is to do it here. Here I can only move one take at a time, but down here I can grab groups of takes. I'm going to call this one working. And those will be my working takes. So that's one way I kind of group things together, right? Just kind of like chunks. And when you're dealing with, 60 animations or 100 animations in a single file of like all sorts of different things, it's really helpful to be able to kind of group things up. Other things you can do to kind of like organize are create folders inside your navigator. So materials, look how unorganized that is. Just like a ton of stuff in there. It's unorganized. So what you can do is you can go in here and say insert a folder, call it. You can make one for like your character, one for your vehicles, one for your weapons, or organize it however you want, right? What works best for your scene. And then you can just grab everything that belongs in that folder and just drag and drop it in there. Let me do that. There, now my materials are much more organized. So that's how you can do this with lights and namespaces and not groups. Groups is a little bit different. Constraints. See, I've already got one in here for constraints. You can do it with character extensions. There's like a whole bunch of ways that you can do that. So another way is under groups. And under groups, this is a way to organize things in your scene. So it's going to vary. This happens to be how I organize this file. So I've got all my head meshes under a specific group. And that way I can quickly switch out my heads and make this character any character I want. I just happen to like, where is he? That guy right there. Although this guy's pretty fun. I like his eye patch, or whatever, monocle, robot eye, whatever it is. And so I have it for like heads and torso. I have this split up very granularly, but you can do like full loadouts. Like if I wanted this armor set, I could put all the armor that I want into one group, and things are not limited to one group. I can have these gloves in like 4 different groups. So as I turn groups on and off, those gloves will turn on accordingly. I do the same thing with weapons, like his rifle is right here. It's kind of sticking off to the side because I haven't done anything to that weapon node. But I got all the different weapons that he could potentially be using, or tools. Do the same thing with like the rigging and skeletons and anything you want to be able to quickly hide and unhide. You just throw it into a group. Also, it prevents you from being able to click on stuff. Like I can't click on him per se. But if I come over here, and which torso do I have turned on? Oh, there it is. I've got torso 11. So I can actually select the torso by selecting the group that it's in. Or, let me unselect it. If I turn on pick, which is that checkbox right there, it'll allow me to come in here and actually select it up here, which can get very annoying when you're like trying to animate and you're trying to grab a control, but then you're grabbing the mesh. So just grabbing those meshes and grouping them and then turning off pick, I'm no longer accidentally grabbing these controls. Oh, folders with chat. Oh no. Let me see if I can do this. I tell you, the battle for real estate on Twitch in these streams is crazy. Motionbuilder just takes up so much real estate on your screen, and normally I don't even like to work like this in one screen. I like to actually pull these windows out, and I have my main working window on my left monitor, and I have all my tools on the right monitor. Everything here is undockable, so I can pull things out and I can actually drag them off. If you can see my other screen, you see I can have this really cool layout of like everything that I like to use, and come back in here whenever I'm oh, they have this new docking feature. So if you want to undock something, and you see how it's like trying to redock itself somewhere, I'm going to drag it off my screen so it doesn't dock. If you hold down Control and drag it over, you can actually hold down Control and then you can drag your window wherever and it won't dock. But the second you try to move it without holding down Control, it's going to want to dock. So yes, hold down Control and move it around and it won't dock. So it does. Oh, come on. There we go. Silly. I wish that was a... Maybe it is. Maybe it's a feature you can turn on and off. That I don't know where the button is because they put it somewhere that I'm unfamiliar with. But yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, like I was saying, names or folders over here. You can create folders like materials. I just created a folder. I dropped all those materials in there. Other things you can do to kind of like make things nicer. If you hit Control 1 is like everything in one viewport. Control 2 is split. 3 is 3, and 4 is 4. four panes, and then you can say which one you want it to be. So maybe you want this one to be like front, so it's Control F. Maybe you want this one to be back, so it's you hit Control F, but you hit Control F again, and it switches it over to the back side. And it remembers where that camera is. So if I go to R, which is right, and then back to front, you can see it's, let's say I'm only working on the head. It remembers where it's at, back or front. And if you have two windows or more that are the same view and you try to move it, they both move at the same time. So another pro tip you can do is you can, oh, hold on, you can't adjust these screens. Come on, Motionbuilder, Autodesk, why can't we adjust these screens? This is lame. So something you can do if you want to adjust your screens, you can go up to Window and you can say, where is it? Add Viewer. And it adds a viewer, and you can, guess what? Dock the viewer. And then guess what you can do? You can then control your viewer. So let's say you wanted like a front view, like that, and you wanted to look at your overall animation. You could do this pretty easily. So that's pretty nice. The main viewer will always have this bar on the side, so maybe putting this over here would be better. Because I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? I prefer this bar on the side, and I prefer it not dividing my two panes up. So there you go. There's some interesting tips you can do to kind of like arrange things to make them nice. Now there is a bug with Motionbuilder. If I come over here and I switch this to schematic view, is this. Actually, I'm not seeing that bug right now. This is strange, huh? Why am I not seeing that? So there's a weird tearing bug that happens. But it's not tearing, huh? I wonder why. I wonder if it has something to do with my system settings. Oh yeah, so always refresh viewer. If I got Motionbuilder playing and I click off, like let's see if I can click on something else. So Motionbuilder is being very strange for me tonight. If you're ever like jumping in and out of Motionbuilder, but you want your animation to continue playing, there's an always refresh viewer right here. And that will, if you click off of your window that's playing your animation, it will continue to play your animation rather than just freezing. Dual quaternion skinning. I wonder if this will work. Probably not. Looks like it's working. Let's see if this works. It's really hard to tell with this character. So a lot of times when you animate a character and you twist their forearm, it'll like pinch really bad. Quaternion helps hold that volume, so when you're rotating around, it'll hold that volume. Dual quaternion wasn't in Motionbuilder for a really long time, but now it looks like it's in. And it doesn't work for the game characters I work on for my game, but for some reason it seems to be working on this character, which is very interesting. Then you got GPU skinning. So that way all the skinning of your character happens on your GPU, and it will actually alleviate the stress on your CPU. So there you go. Huh. Oh, there it goes. Do you see it? I got it to bug out a little bit. See if I can get it to bug out again. No, not going to do it. Yeah, for when the bug I'm talking about, when you have schematic view up and regular view, a lot of times when you start moving things around, it will start causing the mesh to tear off the geo, but only while you're manipulating the schematic view. You can come over here and work just fine, or hit play and things play just fine. But oh, there you go. It kind of did it. But manipulating here, it will cause that bug to happen. It's a strange bug. I wonder if it depends. What happens if I hold down Control? There we go. No, not going to do it. I saw it flash a couple of times there. We'll probably see it in replay. So organization. So yeah, those are just some of the things you can do to kind of organize and kind of get things, you know, friendly to work with. I'll re-show you this folder thing. See, all these videos are like super, just like a super bunch of. So it says videos, but really these could be videos, these could be textures. I'm just going to insert a folder, which is down here. You can rename it. We'll call it whatever you want. I call this guy. And then you can select the things that you want in that folder, within that group, and just drag and drop it in there. And nice and clean. So this is really helpful when you're working on a scene with multiple characters. So your initial setup for your character, you'll want to do all this organization, like here's my Marine, and I'm going to create a folder as like Marine textures, Marine video, Marine shaders, Marine lights, everything that's associated with that Marine's master file. That's what you're gonna call it. And then when you go and you open up your I don't know, your civilian, you'll have the civilian folder, civilian this, civilian that. Everything will be tagged and have name and proper namespaces. And then when you combine those together, those two files together, you're not going to have like 1,000 different textures and things and shaders and whatnot, just messing up the place. Everything will be in their own individual folder. It's real nice to work with it that way. So you haven't touched Mobu since the old TRI days? TRI is that terminal reality? Haha. What games did you work on terminal reality? So Ghostbusters and the Star Wars. So I worked on Ghostbusters too. TRI was my first gaming job, and I went in and I worked on Demonic, which got featured in the movie Grandma's Boy. And so I was on Blue Team. Red Team was working on Blood Rain 2 or 2. I think it was Blood Rain 2. So working on Blood Rain at the time, and they made Grandma's Boy and Blood Rain, and they both got released to theaters at the same time. Like literally opening day was the same day. So the company said, "All right, everybody gets to go to the movies. We're going to buy everybody movie tickets. Where do you want to go?" and like almost everybody chose Grandma's Boy. A few guys that worked on Blood Rain chose Blood Rain because hey, they worked on Blood Rain. And man, were those guys that chose Blood Rain, they were sure like, why did we watch this horrible movie? But I think we all enjoyed Grandma's Boy. We had a good laugh. Thought it was funny. One guy make an entire game with 0 backups. But I did the glow maps on the bad guys because they wanted some kind of like fighting to happen, like a combat, even though that's not what the game was about. That was at that time it was the most anticipated release for the Xbox 360 because the 360 was getting ready to come out. So those were the next gen consoles, and it was a Clive Barker game. It was demonic with a K, and due to political reasons, it got shelved. And if you worked at TRI, you probably heard those stories. So after that, I worked on a first-person shooter, and then to demo, and then we got the gig to work on Ghostbusters. So I did all the initial prototyping. Like I worked on Slimer, like all the initial Slimer stuff. We were 3D Studio Max, so that I'll just hit play here, and everybody can watch this animation while I jabber on about things. There we go. So yeah, Spy Hunter, yeah. So Tomas is one of my buddies there. Was on the animation team. Him and Angel, they worked on that. They were on White Team. So long ago, I'm trying to remember. You had Red, White, and Blue teams, right? And Red Team was downstairs, and they worked on Blood Rain. White Team was working on like Spy Hunter, and I believe they also helped Aeon Flux. And I was on the Blue Team, which was all research and development, trying to get. It's you, Tomas. Hey. But yeah, so yeah, worked on. So I did the Slimer, the initial stuff for Slimer. We were in Max. I prototyped Cat Toolkit because I thought that was a great choice for doing these really exaggerated characters. And eventually I left, and other people took over, and they switched over to Maya for that, which I thought was a good decision. I went over to 3D Realms at that point. There's Jay and Tomas. Oh, this is like a reunion. I like this. Well, welcome, Tomas, to Brewhouse Art Studio. So yeah, man. Yeah, so I left. I remember. I don't know if you remember. We were building the Ghostbusters for Ghostbusters, and I was doing all the rigging, and we're figuring out the proton packs. And I think I was kind of like doing a lot of things. I was animating, I was prototyping, I was modeling. I believe if the story I was told was correct, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man that I modeled ended up making it to the final game, the final release of the game. I thought that was pretty cool. I was sure that they would have remodeled that thing. But I remember when we did the Ghostbusters, we didn't have the heads sculpted. So what I did was I took like these cardboard cutouts of all the different actors, Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and all them, and made these little flat cardboard looking faces for all the characters, so that we would have a head to work with. Because I believe we had the Ghostbuster outfit, and we had the proton pack and all that. That was me. And then it was pretty cool that they got everybody for that game. Yeah, J Tachimobu. Yeah, I want to say Jay and I learned Motionbuilder together at 3D Realms. That's where you learn Motionbuilder, right, Jay? 3D Realms? So yeah, we kind of learned Motionbuilder together. Yep. And I remember James was teaching us Motionbuilder, James Huska, and he was a very interesting guy. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years back, and that's kind of sad. He's a nice guy, and just I feel sad that he died. I hope his wife is doing well. She was really nice. That's right. Cat got sold to Softimage, and then Softimage was bought by Autodesk. And then Cat was put back into 3D Max. So Cat is this really great auto rigging tool for 3D Studio Max, and it allows you to make pretty much any character you want with the same kind of controls that you see in Motionbuilder. And me being a beta tester for Cat and learning how that works and how just layers work, because it works very similar to Motionbuilder, I feel like I was able to more easily transition into Motionbuilder than like somebody who's an animator and has been animating well but has never used a system like that. Yeah, so Cat was and then I left to go to 3D Realms, and I was like, oh man, guy, to the dev team for Cat. I was like, sorry, I'm gonna be using Maya now. Please port over to Maya. And yeah, and then shortly after that, Softimage bought it. They were going to integrate it in because it's such a good tool. And then Autodesk bought Softimage, integrated Cat back into 3D Max as a default feature, so you no longer had to buy it separately. Yeah, the circle of Autodesk. Yep, that's right, circle of life. Right. Oh man, good times. Good times. What time is it? 11 o'clock. Streaming for 2.5 hours. So. In Georgia at Hi-Res, that's cool. Can you say what you're working on, or is that still like NDA stuff? Well, I can tell you, Jay and I are working at Cloud Imperium Games, and we're working on Star Citizen. And after Lightbox closed, I was out looking for work, and I ended up landing a job at Angel. Angel's in Austin now. Yeah, I forget he's like a producer or something. I forget which studio he's a producer for. Yeah. I should reach out to him and see if he wants to come down to the studio and check it out. But yeah, so I went to CIG and I was tasked for hiring. So the first guy I hired was Daniel Craig, not the Daniel Craig, but a Daniel Craig who's an animator. And he brought him on board as one of my motion capture specialists and transitioned him to animator. And you probably remember Daniel Craig from Terminal Reality because he came from Terminal Reality. And then shortly after that, I got a call from Jay saying that they were laying off a bunch of guys and he was one of them. And I'm like, well, I need somebody. So then I brought Jay on to CIG, and we've been working together ever since. Where's SIGGRAPH going to be held this year? Does anybody know? I haven't checked. LA. I probably won't be able to make it unless my company sends me out there, and I don't think that's going to happen. Didn't they have SIGGRAPH down in like San Antonio one year, not a few years back? I want to say they did. And I almost went. I forget what held me back. It was probably the XY. The XY probably held me back. I would go to LA for team building, but there's no animation team in LA. Except for Steve, our animation director. He's like the only part of the animation team who's in LA. That's a good idea. We'll sign you up for that, Jay. Or I'll put in a good word at least. I think we lost a viewer because they're probably like, man, what are these guys talking about? Ooh. So anyway, to everybody else who's still watching and interested, I think I'm done for tonight as far as animation is concerned. I think we did a lot. So to recap, I retargeted animation to this character from motion capture. So I got that set up. Motion edited in data, analyzed it, cut it apart, edited it, and then showed how we can make it work together. Oh, you guys had the accent suit, right? Because I remember Daniel telling me about that, and so for those of you who don't know what the accent suit is, so motion capture is typically like it's optical. So you wear markers on your body and the infrared cameras, yada yada yada, triangulates, boom, you got data in the computer. Accent suit uses a different system with like sensors that are fit into the suit, and I can't remember if they're magnetic or how they're able to detect movement. Oh yeah. Well, the problem with it, I don't know if it's still the case, but the problem, at least back in the day with the accent suit, was you couldn't sit down in a chair and put your feet up on the table. One foot always had to be on the floor all times. Otherwise, it would drop your hips to the ground. And that was a real problem. Also, the stories that I've heard from everybody who's used an accent suit is, one, it's really difficult to pull all the wiring out to wash the suit. So what you end up having is a nasty, sweaty suit that you stuff people into in order to do the motion capture. And I've heard horror stories from Daniel Craig about washing that suit in his sink and it turning the water black because it's so filthy, because it's so difficult to wash. And he was telling me stories like having to like reach in and like pull things out, like while it's some sweaty person is like wearing the suit and like getting sprayed in the face with sweat as he's like pulling things out. Oh Lord. I saw a tech demo for the accent suit from I want to say it was E3. They were demoing something, and I believe it was getting better. I haven't seen raw data. If I had access to raw data, I'd have been like, oh, okay, let me check it out. I'll test it. But I haven't seen anything that makes me go, man, that suit is worth the $60,000. For $60,000, I can get a good optical system that can capture 3 people with props. In fact, I have an optical system that's worth about that much at my current job. And we were able to do a bartender shoot, and we were able to have like 8 different bottles and mixers and all sorts of other props that we markered up, and our actor, and be able to do everything that we needed to do and have really good data. So oh yeah, yeah. George, he ended up going. We ended up going Vicon at 3D Realms, so that was fun. Tiny little 8-camera Vicon system. Yeah, so depending on the size of the system that you want to go with, you can do a. I want to say it's about 12 cameras that are Prime 41s, depending on the size, and you can get a pretty decent volume. That's about 70-something thousand. But if you want to do the Flex 13s, which are those little tiny red mocap cameras, you get, I think I want to say it's 24. But you're maxed out on those because those are USB, and you max out at 24, and that's about $28,000. And Rooster Teeth. They do all the red versus blue and ruby and all that. I went to their stage and talked with them at one point as an advisor for their mocap stage, and they had a really good setup. They had Flex 13s. They had on all their tripods. They had 3 cameras. They had all 24. They had 24 of them. Really good volume, and the data that we caught was like really rock solid. So if you don't need a big system and you got a permanent location, those little Flex 13s did a really good job. Prime 41s are probably overpowered for a small space. If you're going to have a small space and a few number of cameras, you probably want to go with a Prime 14, and that will get you the volume, the same volume as the Prime 41s for less the cost, and it's not overpowered. Yeah, that's right. So I don't know what the 13s are, but I can tell you about the 41s because that's what we have. So 41s, if you have about 12 cameras, that is a 30 by 30 by 9 setup volume, and then the capture volume is 15 by 15 by 9, so you get a 15 foot by 15 foot by 9 foot ceiling. Yeah, and it works really well. Yeah. Yeah, we originally bought like 32 or 34 cameras for our studio, Prime 41s. We had a pretty good sound stage that we set everything up in. I want to say we could do a bigger volume, but I think I want to with those cameras. But we did I want to say it was 60 foot by 50 foot setup space, so that gave us a pretty decent capture volume. Eventually, that system traveled over to the UK, and then got split up, and part of it came back to us in the US, and lived in Austin for a while, and then it went over to LA to our LA studio, and then it came back to Austin. Now it's kind of set up in Austin, I hope more permanently, but because it's super useful in our development. So the 41s are pretty overpowered. I actually have to turn down their the IR LEDs in order to get a really good read. Otherwise, man, there's like IR reflection off of everything. Well, how big of a volume are we planning on? That's TBD. It's going to depend on a lot of factors, like where will they let us set up? Because if they say you can't set up there, but it's a really great space, then we're not allowed to set up there. I really wish we had that space over in QA, because QA has a really good volume that we could have sat up in, but they wanted that space for QA. Star Engine? Where are you talking about our game engine at work, Jay? Oh, are we using the Cry? Okay, I had to go back and chat. Are we using CryEngine for our project? Well, we started off with the CryEngine, and then we modded it so much we decided to call it Spacebox. I voted for the Dark Matter engine because I thought that would have been a cool name. But we went with Spacebox. And then eventually CryEngine sold to Amazon and is now called Lumberyard. So technically we're now on Lumberyard. So that's the history. And so you know when you launch a game, it comes up with a little splash screen on your monitor. You know, says whatever, says CryEngine, or in our case it says like Spacebox or whatever. When it was Spacebox, I couldn't stand it, so I got an image of what's his name, Space Pants, Peter Dinklage. Wait, am I saying his name right? I'm probably messing it up. I got a picture of him as that character from SNL with the hair and the vest and the space pants, and I crossed out box and put pants, so it was Space Pants, and I used that as my splash screen. I wish I still had that picture somewhere. That was pretty funny. Dinklage, yeah. Space Pants. Well, I am happy that I can help you out, Eric. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in that suggestion box down below. If anybody has any ideas on what they would like to see in future Motionbuilder tutorials, whatever, drop them down in the suggestion box. I'm going to go and read those. Or get connected on Discord through the Discord link and put a thing in the Discord chat. I have to admit, I don't go on Discord all that often. I should really hop on there a little bit more, but I do go into that, and I do see if anybody has posted anything prior to these, so that I have an idea of what to do. So like a pipeline going from Motionbuilder through 3D Studio Max to CryEngine. Well, it's going to depend on if you're going to go with biped, or you're going to go with cat toolkit, or if you're going to build your own custom rig. Because each one has its pros and its cons. And if you're going to go biped, there's a few things you need to know about how to set those characters up in Motionbuilder. That's a good tutorial. How to get biped into Motionbuilder and put motion capture on it and get it back into 3D Studio Max. I think that's a good one. That's pretty simple. But yeah. Yeah, it's been a very long time since I've looked at biped in 3D Studio Max. If somebody were to come to me and say, Brian, we're going to use 3D Studio Max you have to use 3D Studio Max for this project because of reasons. How I want you to build out our pipeline. How would you do it? Let's say I'm gonna pretend Motionbuilder is not an option. Strictly using 3D Studio Max. I would go with Cat Toolkit. And the reason why I would go with Cat Toolkit is you have all the same functionality as biped and then some. Yeah, especially cat motion, which is procedural based animation, right, for walks and runs and that sort of stuff. Super helpful, super friendly. Yeah, I really like that system. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. If you're stuck using biped, but you have the option of using Motionbuilder, I would definitely animate in Motionbuilder and just export to biped. Yeah. Well, C3D? No, I think BBH. I don't think it imports C3D, but I believe it does import BBH. Yeah, definitely. So back when I was a young student in college, I'd go on all the forums and I'd read stuff, and you get into wars, right? Like, what's better? Somebody asked the question, what package is better? And then you get the war of Maya is better, Max is better, Softimage is the best. Well, one person, and I always remember the comment they left, said, "Well, listen, if you want to build something, you build it in Max. If you want to rig something, you rig it in Maya. And if you want to animate something, you want to animate a character, you animate it in Motionbuilder because Motionbuilder is built for animating." And years later, years have passed, and I got to 3D Realms and I learned Motionbuilder. I learned the power of Motionbuilder, but I still remember that that comment that person left. And I mean, you know what? It's true. It is really true. Motionbuilder is so friendly to animating with tools. When I went to Lightbox, I was the only animator on Starhawk, and I was able to do an entire game by myself. Granted, while it wasn't like a Star Citizen huge game, it was me by myself doing 1,000 animations for the game, or close to 1,000 animations over the course of 3 years. And I would not have been able to do it if I did not have Motionbuilder. And when I got there, and I started working with our technical animator who's doing all the rigs and tools and scripting for us, I told him exactly what I need. I said to him, I need twist bones, I need flex bones, I need helper bones. But I want it all to be driven by the skeleton because I'm going to be animating a Motionbuilder. I'm going to be using the Motionbuilder control rig, and I want the main skeleton to drive all these bits and pieces on the character. And he's like, what? He thought I was crazy. And I started showing him Motionbuilder. I showed him what you can do, the power of Motionbuilder. And he goes, what am I even here for? I'm like, dude, I need you. I need you to build me the skeletons. I need you to do all this rigging. I need you to write me tools. I mean, there's a use for you. I mean, he did other things. He built like the dropping building systems, and I like prototyped what it should look like and how it should function, and then he made it actually work. And he was very useful. His name was Kyle Rockman, and it was his first game his first job in the gaming industry. and he did a really, really good job. And we worked. I thought we worked really well together as a team. And so anyway. Well, I actually like the graph editor in Motionbuilder quite a bit. Let me show you a couple of things because not everybody knows everything about like where all the little buttons are. In fact, I don't know where everything is, but I'm learning. So one of the things that you can come over here to these keys right over here. I'm gonna delete a couple of these keys for an example. So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna pull this down so we can more easily better see this. So this key right here, not only can you like break it and play with these individually or as a team, you can actually set the weighting. So if you click the little weight button right here, you can actually like start playing with the weight of that curve. So that's something that's super helpful and handy. I love ghosting. So right here is ghost. So like, let me undo that a few times. I probably should have turned on ghost to begin with. Undo, 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 undo. So if I had used ghosting, I would have had to do all those undos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to say ghost. I'm going to say, by the way, I'm in classic mode. So if you right click in here, you just go down to classic mode and you can see these features. I'm going to say keep. Now I'm going to do that same thing I just did where I delete these keys and drag this down and manipulate it in a way that I think might work well. Let's say I do that and I do that. I break this and I bring this up here and I don't know. Let's say I don't like it. I can still see the ghosting there and I can like swap back and forth between whatever my edit is and what I've been working on. And if I like it, I can say keep it, clear it. If I don't like it, I say clear it. So I'm going to swap back and say clear because I don't like it, so I'm going to get rid of it. So that's one thing. I like enabling time warp. Time warp's great if you need to reverse an animation really fast, or if you need to like go into bullet time or manipulate things. This is a really cool feature. I just discovered this in one of my streams. One of the guys from Rigging Dojo. Time warp is awesome. If you come here and you go out of classic mode, see, hold on, I don't have enough real estate. See this fall off radius? This is frames. So if I come over here and let's say there's a couple ways to do this, right? So I can either grab this and I can just drag this up to stretch that out, or I can grab one key or multiple keys and I can set this to a value of however many frames I think it needs to go over, say 20 frames. Now when I drag this up and down, you can see it's actually dragging that whole curve, which I think is pretty amazing. So say I want to grab all this, I can do that. You just have to remember that it's on, and when you're done with it, you want to set it back down to 0. I typically stay in classic mode. That's just my own personal preference. But I love things that I love about this. It's easy to copy and paste. So I'm going to copy that. Just come right to the end and hit paste. And it's pasted that. I don't know. I guess it's been a while since I used Max. I remember liking Max and dealing with its graph editor, curve editor. And I remember going into Maya and not liking Maya at all. And then I came into Motionbuilder and it was just like perfect. I love it. Let's see. There's probably a bunch of other things I'm not even thinking about. But those are like the main things. I like the fact that I can grab this. I can quickly like zero stuff out. Or I can come in here and I can like, you know, manually punch in a value. I know you can do this in other packages. It's just things that I like to do. You can change your tangent values. I don't know. There's just a bunch of different things you can do with this. Oh, I like being able to grab stuff and having these little handles over here on the side to manipulate things. And down here. I can just drag the whole thing across. So anyways, just things about the F-curve editor. What I'm doing for the Sunday stream. Well, I've been working on a sculpture. I want to be done with it because I got an idea to do this. I went to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and I bought my kid a wand, and I bought myself a wand. And my girlfriend bought a wand. I'm gonna make a wand stand. And I got some ideas on how to make it, and I did some little sketches. And so I'm thinking about finishing my anatomy study and starting in on a wand stand. And it's going to be like sculpting and casting resin and doing some lighting and all sorts of stuff I've never done before. So if you want to watch me make a big mess out of things, get tune in on Sunday. Yes, Brad Clark from Rigging Dojo gave that tip, and it was an excellent tip, and I loved it. My first job, or asking about my first job? No, my first job in the industry was at Terminal Reality. I was not the only animator. Then I went to 3D Realms, not the only animator. Worked at ID for a short period of time as a contractor, not the only animator. Then I went to Lightbox, and I was the only animator. And I transitioned over to CIG. I started off as the only animator, then I hired a bunch of people. Oh yeah, TCB doesn't biped do stepped animation. Like it looks smooth, but you zoom in really, really close to their curves, and it's like stepped. At least I remember that how it was back in the day. I don't know if it's still that way. So anyway, well, guys and gals, I am beat, and I don't have to get up in the morning. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. But I am tired, and this is a long stream, and I am super stoked that all of you came in and listened to me ramble on for 3 hours. Do I have any examples of Scrum sheets from Motionbuilder? I do not have any here. It's okay. I don't mind if somebody info mines me. So I learned something a long time ago. When you teach, you get better. And the more I teach and I talk to people and help them out, I realize the better I get at what I do. And I'll never teach a class in a college or anything like that for whatever reason. I don't think that's in the cards for me. But one of the things that I loved about my current job is I got to train a bunch of animators on motion editing and Motionbuilder, and every time I taught somebody, it just made me that much better at what it is that I'm doing. So I encourage everybody out there to mentor somebody, go out and teach them, even if you're new at this. You go out there and you show them what you learned, and it's just going to make you better at what you do. And so I heard through the grapevine some Chinese companies have been ripping off Twitch streams and posting them on their own websites, and of course unknown to the streamer. A lot of these are like gamers gaming, and while that's like super cool, I mean, not that I make any money off this Twitch stream, but I'm really appreciative of the tips and the subscriptions that people give me, and it helps. All of us streamers, it helps, and it really sucks to think people in other countries are stealing our stuff and just posting it. But I guess that's bound to happen, right? Everything gets bootlegged. Anything digital gets bootlegged at some point, right? So I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is, I'll tell all my secrets. So I worked with this kid at Terminal Reality. His name was Kiko. Bright, upcoming animator, talented. And when I met him, we would talk and we would share how we did something. And he was always like, he'd be like, "Oh man, how'd you do that?" I'm like, "Oh, this is how I did it." I'm like, "How'd you do the thing?" He's like, "Oh no, I can't tell you. It's my secret. It's my secret." And I'm like, "Well, this is how I did what I did." And I go through the whole process of whatever it is that I did. And he goes, "I can't believe you just told me all that." Blah, blah, blah. So, but anyways, what happened was he came in at a certain level. And he wasn't really growing much. But the second he started opening up and talking to other people and sharing his ideas and learning from us and us learning from him, I watched his level grow and grow and grow until he eventually left Terminal Reality and went over to Gearbox. And he's a really good animator. He's a great animator. I haven't seen his work lately, but he's the stuff that I had seen, he's really good. And it was really good to see him advance, because he's no longer keeping things a secret. He's able to get it out. And a lot of times when you get stuff out, you think of things that you may have not thought of before. So anyways, creative problem solving. Kiko, man, that guy. Is he still in Austin? I know he was in Austin for a while. I don't know if he stayed in Austin. Good night, Jay. In fact, I think I'm out of here too. Like I was saying, I really appreciate you all tuning in, and I don't get a chance to chat much at the ends of these things. I really gotta enjoy chatting with you all. This is true, Tomas. That's a really good point. And by the way, it'd be cool to get a whole group of us together in like of us veterans talking sometime in some mega stream here on Twitch. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, I appreciate everybody joining in. Come check me out Sunday. I don't know. I might do some other streams over the weekend. I'm going to try doing these micro streams where I just go out somewhere and I do sketches. But yeah. Thank you all for stopping by, and I hope to see you all again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.